All right, getting started here, guys. And as we get into what we're doing with Ned, it's funny because I really appreciate those guys bearing with us for the past few months, as I've been saying, as we haven't been in studio and hearing everything all compressed. It's nice to be back in studio and be able to do these reads and be able to do the show sounding as good as possible. So with that, CBD has become extremely popular in the past year. And as the market becomes more saturated, it becomes more and more difficult to navigate and choose the right company and product. That is where Ned comes in. They produce the highest quality CBD extracted from the finest organic hemp plants from a small homestead in the bountiful farmland of Paonia, Colorado. Ned is a wellness brand offering science-backed and nature-based solutions that offer an alternative to prescription and over-the-counter drugs. No isolates, no synthetic ingredients, full transparency. Ned shares third-party lab reports, who farms their products, their extraction process, all right there on their site. Their full-spectrum hemp oil only contains their CBD extract and non-GMO MCT oil. That's it. It has a great taste that's clean and pure. And yes, CBD could be used as a sleep aid, also used to treat insomnia, post-traumatic stress, depression, and just do your research. There's plenty to see right there on the site if you're thinking of checking it out. And I should mention, the latest thing that I got from Ned is their immunity blend. And this, I could tell you, is now something I am using every single day. It's a limited release. It's got all different ingredients in there, like elderflower and ginger and a lot of other ingredients that I wasn't familiar with. And when I did some research and Googled everything, there are plenty of benefits to all this stuff that you're really not getting in your diet. So that's a big recommendation for me, and it tastes great. Everything at this point that Ned puts out, it has a great taste to it.
Yeah, I got the immunity blend from Rhett. I think it was last week, and I gave it a shot. It's great. I put it in my water, and that's what I recommend you guys doing. I tried it with not putting in water first, and I have IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, and it was like, whoa, that's a little bit too strong. And so and that's what I love about Ned too, is I hit up, I believe her name's Brianna. It could be Brittany. I'm sorry, be out there. She's the one that does the customer service, and you can ask her a question and email it to her, and she will get it back to you within 12 hours, if not even quicker than that. And I hit her up and said, hey, how should I be taking this? Because it's not really sitting with my stomach well. And she said, hey, you just take it with water. Don't take it with and take it away from food. So give yourself a couple hours. So I did actually. I put it in my workout water. Nice. And it's awesome. And yeah, you can tell. I mean, it's you can always tell when you're getting the vitamins and the nutrients or at stuff that maybe your body hasn't had over the years, and you're getting it again, how much it picks you up. And honestly, it's been fantastic. So guys, if you are having problems with anything that you're taking from Ned, don't hesitate to email their customer service, or if they're on at that time, they'll even be, you'll be able to DM them directly, and they'll get right with you, and they'll explain how to take something, when you should, when you shouldn't, and what you're trying to accomplish, what's the goal you're trying to accomplish with a certain product, and they'll help you even purchase those as well and guide you in the right direction. They're not going to try to upsell you. They're just going to put you in the right direction and get what you need, and it was awesome. So that's another plus with Ned, not just the products, but just their customer service aspect is outstanding. And I found out with Immunity Blend when I got it and didn't know how to take it correctly. And she explained to me, and now it's awesome. It's fantastic, and I'm taking it every day like Ian. It's I mean, I'm already strong as a horse, strong as an ox, but it does make me feel a hell of a lot better. And after my workouts, I'm recovering quicker. So yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think just now more than ever, people are looking to stay healthy, and that immunity blend has really come out at the right time. I personally have no problem taking it, in its concentrated form, but, everybody is going to have a different reaction. Yep. But it's great stuff. So Ned, as in the CBD, the immunity blend is not CBD, but the CBD will not get you high. Full spectrum hemp is a non-psychotropic, and Ned products contain a minuscule amount of THC, less than 0.3% as allowed by law. So if you want to check out Ned and try CBD, try body butter, immunity blend, any of that, we have a special offer for the Battleline audience. Go to helloned.com/Battleline. or enter Battleline at checkout, and you're going to get 15% off your order plus free shipping. That's HELLONED.com forward/Battleline to get 15% off your first order plus free shipping. You guys are not going to regret it. Thank you, Ned. And also, of course, Fort Scott Munitions is with us pretty much every show. They are a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, as well as directly online through fortscottmunitions.com. Use exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline Podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. Without further ado, let's get into everything.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm going to shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline Podcast.
The switch is on. Episode 39 already. And I am psyched to have on your friend, Matt Waters, for this episode. Before we get to him, though, I am nerding out a bit over David Silvera posting, putting pictures, sending them to you in the Battleline Podcast shirt and with the American flag behind him, which is so badass, holding your book, The Patriot's Creed. And my reaction, as I said to you when you sent me it, was if you could only tell 13-year-old me that, you know, seeing Korn at Madison Square Garden, that the drummer for Korn will one day be listening to your podcast and wearing the shirt of your podcast. As I said to you, I'd probably say, what the hell is a podcast? But once you explain that to me, because it was 1999, I would be pretty amped.
Isn't that coolest thing? And he, dude, the dude has actually, Dave is, him and I have probably, since the podcast, we've talked maybe once or twice a month. And honestly, we've become friends. He's a great guy, tremendous individual, tremendously motivated. He's always out there. He calls me after he runs. He's one of the only guys like myself that will call when he's running or after he's running. And it's amazing. And the dude is so patriotic. He loves the military. You know, he wants, and we were talking about this down the road, maybe going together to Walter Reed and seeing you know the injured service members there at Walter Reed. And I was like, man, he's like, what do you think? They think I should go? I mean, I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? They're going to want to see the guy from Korn, not Tonto.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of cross section there, man, of guys who have seen 13 Hours and rock out to Korn. I guarantee you.
Well, that's what I was like, man, that'd be awesome. It's going to be such a great pairing. But let's just get this, because I don't even know if Walter Reed how they're doing with visitors right now with all the. And I don't even want to get into it, man. There's all the ridiculousness going on.
I was going to mention it later on, but I mean, I should. If we're going to mention that, I should bring it up. Herman Cain, who, you know, both of us are a fan of.
Oh yeah, Herman's a friend actually. Herman's a great. I've been on his show several times. Herman's I got stories we can say, but tell me about it. What's happening?
I mean, currently hospitalized with COVID-19, which is pretty troubling. I mean, being that he's a guy in his 70s and also, honestly, being a black man, because they are the most at-risk population with this. So prayers for Herman Cain. That was I was pretty shocked to hear that yesterday. So
well, and I'm not downplaying it at all. Herman's a tremendous individual. I honestly. Speaker Boehner or I shouldn't even call him Speaker Boehner. John Boehner's the one that wrecked his presidential run. Honestly, I thought Herman Cain was going to be president. I think he was well on his way, and his own party jacked him up. My opinion. That's my opinion. The views and opinions on this show don't always match the same opinions of everybody else out there. But when I went and met Herman, and when I did 13 Hours and the movie was going on, Herman was one of the main shows I was on, and I got to know him. And the dude and his wife and his staff, the people that were in Georgia that worked with him and worked for him, I should say too, because they did. They were the nicest people in the world. His wife was tremendous, and Herman took me in, and he's like the Godfather, man. It really was.
Which is funny because it's Godfather's Pizza.
Isn't that? And that's what I knew. It's like, oh my gosh, you own Godfather's Pizza. You were, because he lived in Omaha. Because he had this is worse. The guys appeal. No, Godfather's Pizza and stuff, and they all originated here in Omaha. People don't realize how much money is in Omaha, Nebraska. Well, obviously Warren Buffett, but there were so many people outside other than Warren Buffett that are gazillionaires here, and he was one of them. And that's how we got that's how I got my introduction with him. But after that, it was on his show, tremendous show, and the dude. And this is, I'm saying this as a positive. We went to he belongs to a country club there in Georgia. He said, you want to go have dinner? Let's go. You want to go have lunch? I said, well, Herman, I got to go do another interview in Atlanta. I got to get going. And he said, no, come have lunch. So we went to the country club and have lunch. The dude, I'm sorry, Rangers. The dude can drink all of us under the table. It was unbelievable. This is the gin and tonic he was putting down, and still staying the nicest, coherent, not belligerent, nothing. It was just unbelievable, and it was one of the greatest lunches I've had during that time frame when all that was going on. Because the guy was real, he was tremendous, nicest guy in the world, and he could he was just throwing them back. And I don't condone drinking, guys. I'm not telling you youngsters to go out and drink at all. I'm just saying I was so impressed with him and just his demeanor and you could tell he enjoyed life. He just had such a fun time with life, and he was just enjoying everything, and the nicest guy in the world. And the dude's a monster. He could be an outside linebacker. He's huge. Yes. So no, but yeah, God bless you, Herman, if you're out there. Prayers for you, and I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely nothing to take lightly for someone that age, and I hope he gets through this, and we pray that he does. So I wanted to get to this email, of course, because he sent this originally for the last show, but, we're going to keep these going. Send any of your emails to battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. Hey, guys, I know this email is late for the show, but maybe it can make it onto the next one, which it is. Ian, I know you're probably overrun with guest suggestions, but I was wondering if you still had to connect with Derek Gannon. I found his perspectives uniquely interesting, especially in this time as they pertain to the police, being law enforcement myself. Another interesting topic he had strong opinions on was the SFAB, and was wondering how he felt about the SFAB taking over the Columbia mission, long attributed to 7th Group, who largely own that counter-drug battle space. Also wondering if Tonto had an opinion on the latter, or if he even cares.
Read that one more time. I don't know if I missed something there. Read it one more time for me.
He's asking about the SFAB and was wondering how Derek or you felt about the SFAB taking over the Columbia mission, long attributed to 7th Group, who largely own that counter-drug battle space. I know nothing about this, so.
Honestly, brother, the SFAB with Columbia and drug, I don't know. I want to speak eloquently on it, but I can't. I don't speak eloquently anyway. But brother, whatever counter drug mission is going on down there, whoever needs to be in there, whether it's the group guys, which that's their battle space, or if you've got military contractors or security contractors or government. Brother, the war on drugs is never going to end. It's not. It's just we are until people stop using it. Doesn't. I'll be honest. It doesn't really make a difference to. And it does. It doesn't make a difference to me who's down there. It really doesn't, because you're down there doing what you can, but it's not good. It's not. We're not making a dent into it. I'm being realistic. I wish I could say, war on drugs is going to end. No, it's not. Whether we legalize it all, we don't legalize it all. Whether we try to fight it with all the troops that we have or we don't, people in America want to use it, and I think we are the biggest users in the world of illegal narcotic substances. So until that stops, then the war on drugs is going to end. But that will not end because people have vices, and not everybody likes to live clean. I've been down that road before too, and I think a lot of our listeners have, and I think a lot of our guests have been down that road before too, and you have to find a way out of it. But until that ends, it really makes no difference who's down there fighting it. I think the group guys would like to stay down there because Colombia and I've worked in Colombia before. Yeah, it's fun. It's do I want to go to Baghdad? Do I want to go to Bogota? Yeah, I'll go to Bogota 100 times over. And I think every guy out there that's worked in those battle spaces would say the same. Yeah, I'm going to Colombia because it's fun. And if you speak Spanish, it's even better. I mean, it's almost like you're working in the United States. Honestly, whenever I worked in South America or Mexico or Central America, I felt just as home as when I was working on the East Coast or working in DC or working in Denver. It was home. I mean, you have all those. So that being said, I know it doesn't answer the drug question per se, but that would be whoever is working there would be having the most fun working down there, but we're not making a dent, and we never will. And that's the realism of it. And people want to say cry foul or say, "Oh, you're an idiot." Well, no, because Americans will continue to use illegal drugs and will continue to use narcotics, and until that ends, there's never going to be a shortage of drugs out there. It's a business, man. It's a business.
So he ends that one with Keep Rockin', Adam K, and then he also wrote P.S. Still waiting for a Chief Beck show. So I'll address the rest of that. Derek Gannon was I actually asked to come on the show, and he had to bail out last minute. I will definitely get Derek on at some point. I mean, Derek is a great guy, great writer, and offers a very different perspective. I mean, Derek identifies himself as center left, and he's former Green Beret. And I think most people in that community are not aligned with him politically. And I like talking to people who do come from a different perspective. And yes, he was always very opinionated on law enforcement. So it'd be interesting to get into that with him. As for Kristen Beck, absolutely. There definitely seems to be a demand to have Kristen Beck on the show. Kristen is awesome, and we'll definitely do it. I already could tell you that I know that if we have Kristen Beck on and I post some type of picture, there's always those people who have to say something stupid, and to those people, I genuinely say, go fuck yourself, because it actually does piss me off, man, because whenever we would have Kristen Beck on, it would be like, oh, you're advocating for this type of lifestyle or for transgenders in the military, which I'm definitely not. But Kristen Beck, like anybody else, served in DevGru, served in various SEAL teams, and I have the utmost respect. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with Kristen on everything, but yeah, great person. And Kristen has also texted me when we started the podcast and said, you and Chris are patriots, would love to come on. So yeah.
I'd love to have her on. And guys, if you are a God-fearing person, we aren't in any position to judge. None of us are, or any position to judge. Yes, I have opinions too.
Same here. Exactly.
But when it comes right down to it, the only person that's going to ever judge anything is God. And do I agree with what Kristen did? Or I wouldn't do it. No, I don't think.
That goes without saying, of course.
But that being said, no, that's not. It's not my place to say if it was right or wrong. It's God's place to say it was right or wrong, and Kristen will know, and so will I when we meet our Maker. That's when and that's it. But in the meantime, you respect me, I respect you. We'll move on, and that's just how it is. And yeah, she did serve, and with transgenders or women in the military or so forth, I don't mind that as long as the standards are upheld and they're not changed. Because if they're changed for one, then they are changed for all. And I said,
and also let's keep in mind, Kristen Beck served as Chris Beck,
as Chris.
Kristen Beck's opinions on transgenders in the military, a totally different thing. But I respect. Who was formerly Chris Beck, who served in the military, who served as a Navy SEAL, who worked on things that led to the Bin Laden raid, who did a lot of interesting things with computers from interviews I've had in the past. And yeah, that's really what it boils down to me.
Well, so. I'll give her shit just because she was a SEAL and she was always balancing beach balls on her nose. I'll give that's where I'm gonna rip any SEAL comes on, because Rangers always do that. SEALs do that to Rangers too. So that's rough. If I'm going to hit her on anything, it's like, why'd you decide to go become a sorry ass SEAL? So us Rangers could come and rescue you again whenever you got pinned down. And guys, all you SEALs out there, you know what? That's one thing you don't have to worry about SEALs. Unlike Marines, they don't get their bristles all up in arms when you hear stuff like that. They laugh it off. Where Marines actually get offended. If you said, hey, yeah, Marines, we always came and rescued you. Well, we're always on the first on the beach, and it's a one-upper thing going. The one difference, if you're in the community, SEALs, we'll have a banter, but they never get all bent out of shape. Where Marines do. If I said that to a Marine, I'm totally bent out of shape. So, but I'd look forward to having her on if she wants to come on and. Yeah, we'll talk about those things, but You're right, we don't have to agree, and you and I don't agree on a lot.
No,
I don't say a lot. I say about a quarter of the stuff we don't agree on.
I don't even think it's a quarter, man. I think it's maybe 5% of things. I think for the most part we see pretty eye to eye. But yeah, no,
but there's stuff.
Yeah, of course, and I like talking to people that I'm not going to always align with. Oh, you know what I wanted to mention too? Also, is that even though we're taping this on Friday, for the audience, they've already enjoyed their 4th of July. So I hope you guys enjoyed. It's definitely a different 4th of July than we've had in the past, but I'm hoping you guys got to spend time with family, fireworks, all that good stuff. And you're probably gearing up for it now because, as I said, we're recording Friday.
Blow some stuff up, guys. Have fun and enjoy yourselves. Have some barbecue. I hope you did. Had a lot of barbecue. Actually, I'm even going to drink a beer, and I rarely drink anymore. So yeah, we'll have a good time, brother. Good 4th of July.
What's like your beer of choice when you do drink?
Dude, I am not a heavy beer guy. I like my normal Bud Light, man. That's it.
Okay.
I'm not a light dark guy. I'm not a microbrew guy. I feel like, you can't even taste it. I can taste it just fine. And honestly, I don't want to taste too bitterness. I do like some light beers, microbrews that are light. And I don't know I have to taste it when I'm at a brewery. But for me, brother, I'm the standard. I like Coors Light and Bud Light, and I'm good with that. And Michelob Ultra, I like those, man. They're just good, light tasting beers, and they're not that hard on my gut. But for that being said, are you a microbrew guy? Are you a tasty beer? I'm
in the same boat as you in that I don't drink enough to even have that much of an opinion on this. I used to, but if there, like when I went to the driving range the other day, if there's like a good summer ale on tap, I'll try it. But I literally will drink once a year, and I'm like, all right, I enjoyed that. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. The same way.
Yeah,
I'll have it with the barbecue just because I'm kind of fiending for a beer. And after I run, if I sweat out a ton, I love to have a beer after. It kind of puts carbs back in you. So, but bro, I'm not a huge drinker. I know a lot of my buddies are, but yeah, we'll see. I'll have one or two, but then we'll call it quits at that.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I'm excited to have Matt Waters on. Very inspiring story from this guy. You are all really going to dig what he has to say and what he's been through and what he's accomplished and overcome. But before we get to Matt, of course, I want to let you all know that Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. They're with us throughout this whole show and really keep us doing what we do. Their ammunition is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. It was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. And with everything going on, man, have you been making it to the range as often as usual, or?
Oh yeah, actually, I just got back this weekend. I did. I work with a training company. Actually, I'm one of their faces called Mantis X. It's a dry fire training system, but it's also a live fire training system. I was in Kansas City at the at a rifle range and doing a commercial, but I probably shot five
Tanya told me
rounds.
that.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
So Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, as well as directly online through fortscottmunitions.com. Use the exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order, only available to listeners of the Battleline Podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. And I know when you were out there, that's what you're shooting.
Yeah, I was always shooting Fort Scott. Good stuff, and got a couple other ranges coming up here in the near future that we'll be using them. And you always plenty of pictures. And if you haven't tried Fort Scott, do give it a shot, literally. And I promise you, you're going to stay with it. You won't go to anything else.
So joining us for the first time on Battleline Podcast, Matt Waters, medically retired Army Ranger, who actually served in 2nd Ranger Bat with Tonto, lost his leg in combat from an RPG in Iraq, and is now a bomb tech, crazy enough, with a police department. I'm not going to say which because I know we spoke about that earlier. But really excited to have you on, man, and learn about your story and also learn about your background serving with Tonto, because I know that you're someone that you, Chris, speak very highly of.
Yeah. Now, Matt, he was way ahead of me, though. I was a private. He was already tabbed out when I got there. So I was just a peon when I was there. I was just a little peon to him. So I looked up to him, though. And he's another ginger. I don't know what's up with Ranger Battalion. We just get gingers left and right. We got, if you didn't know that, Ian, just like Luke, just like Marty, just like Jack, and now we got Sergeant Waters here. Every one of them is a ginger. I don't know. I think we recruit in Ireland. I think that's how it works. It's part of the requirement. I don't know how. And then we get a few Mexicans up at 2nd Bat. So.
Yeah, you try to find the folks with no souls, right?
That's right. Tell us, because we have tons of guys that are that listen, that want to join, men and women that want to join the military, and because of my past, and I speak highly of the 75th Ranger Regiment, they're interested in. So, if you wouldn't mind telling a little bit of your backstory and then why you joined, and then going up, because I came in when you're already tabbed out when I got there that second time. So maybe your experiences, people love to hear our experiences as privates getting basically hazed back in the day. I know you can say that on this show. So would you go into that a little bit before we even get into the stuff, as much as you want to talk about in Iraq, and then, to me, it's always amazing that how you, and the job you chose after Ranger Battalion for what happened to you. To me, that's you're a motivating factor to me. So I want to get all that in if we can within the next hour.
Well, thanks, man. Honestly, I was just a dude that needed a job once I left the military, but yeah, we'll get to that in a few. So let's see. I was born in California. My dad was LAPD. I grew up as a cop's kid. My mom was in real estate. And then when my dad retired from LAPD, I think 22 years, we moved up to Washington State, and I finished elementary school, middle school, high school, all that stuff. And that's where I joined the Army from.
Did you take a RIP contract right off the bat? Is that what you decided right off? You took it was still called the RIP at the time. I think it's option 40 now. Yep.
Yeah, was it like 11 X-ray? Was that the contract?
There was 11X with the RIP, or if it was 11 X-ray, and then those guys were the SF babies, which not doing that.
It was something like that. I can't remember. Option 40 wasn't. I don't think that was a thing. I think it was 11 X-ray with a guaranteed try at RIP.
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, we actually had a family friend that had been at 2nd Bat, and I really looked up to him, and he was going to Eastern Washington University at the time. And I really looked up to him like a big brother. And my senior year, I mean, I'd known him since I was a little kid, but anyway, he was going to college in my town. And junior year, senior year, I started hanging out with him a lot more. And just a dude, I mean, like a Ranger's Ranger, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Chris. That guy, you're just like, oh my God, this guy's the coolest. And he kept me under his wing, and treated me like a little brother. And I just heard his stories and saw how he acted. And I was like, yeah, that's for me, jump out of airplanes, blow shit up. Heck yeah.
Yep.
And, my parents had been saving money for a long time, or at least they told me for me to go to college. And about that point in school, I was just like, I'm not a school kid. You know, I go because I have to. My grades, I never really applied myself. So I was like, yeah, if I go to college, I'm just going to end up wasting my parents' money. So, you know, I was talking to my buddy, you know, and hanging out with him. And I'm like, yeah, that's for me, you know, sneaking around in the bushes and playing with guns and explosives. So then, I ended up joining right as I turned 18, delayed entry program. And then I had the summer off, and then I reported for duty. I think it was October 1st.
Oh, you had good time then. I mean, it got a little chilly,
Yeah.
but you're bending honestly at a perfect time, at least to start
Right.
off the bat. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
weather,
especially
man.
coming from the Northwest.
Yes. Oh, Lord.
It was still warm and humid and all that, but it wasn't like, you know, that, oh my God, heat and
Like going out in the
heat cast and all
sauna.
that stuff.
Yeah, like
Right,
training
exactly.
in a wet sauna for 24/7. Yep. Oh,
Yeah. It even snowed on us at
Whoa.
Benning in December. Yeah. Which we thought was all cool until the drill sergeant's like, okay, now it's time to go outside and roll around in it. And it was just like a dusting, so it ended up with, you know, a big mud grab.
Mud pit.
Yeah. So, you know, one of the little things that, you know, a joyful thing you think as a kid, but that the Army can take and go, yeah, guess what? No.
No, yeah, we're gonna make it miserable. It's
Right.
but
right.
that's how it was back in the day. When did you go through basic training again? What years was that again? Was that
That was
97?
97. Yeah.
Wow.
I think I graduated January of 98.
Yeah, and so it was still they hadn't. I know when the first time I went in was 95, and then when I came back in again and did it 99, you could tell there was that difference, that it actually had become softer. But I think really the stress car, I should call it the stress car generation, I don't think it came in until after 90, right around 97 is when it started to apply at Jackson, and then it started to filter down into Benning. And
Yeah,
and so
we never saw that.
yeah. So was there any remarkable stories you could talk about, or anything that happened at basic where you showed up and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe drill sergeants can still do this, you know, because you always hear horror stories. You think of the Full Metal Jacket, Arlie Ermy sort of. And I honestly, I had a couple of those when I first went in 95.
Sure.
Did you have anything like that with the drill sergeant where you just like, holy shit, I better mind my P's and Q's because this is for real?
No, I mean, there was nothing like I'm in fear of my life type thing. I mean, there was that general, like, I'm in a different environment, I need to act accordingly. You know I'm joining the military. The military is about discipline and respect. And, you know, that was already instilled in me. I mean, my dad was a Vietnam Marine, and
Oh, wow.
hearing his stories about boot camp. I mean, you want to talk about getting throttled. I mean, they would straight up punch you, you know, and do some other things. Like my dad saw one of his buddies, he pissed the DI off, and the DI somehow scooped up the dude. He was a smaller dude, scooped the dude up, grabbed him by his feet, and started bonking his head on the pavement.
Holy shit. It's amazing. Honestly, I think a lot of that, it is necessary sometimes. I remember in 95 when I had a kid from New York City that smarted off to Drill Sergeant Charles. I remember our drill sergeant. He was tabbed. He was a former third bat guy, and he came across a desk and he leveled him and there was my second day in, and we were out of 30th AG. So we'd always move into 258. And I remember that. And I remember he came across and just nailed him. And my eyes went open because, like, I was thinking to myself, wait a second, I thought they couldn't do this shit to us anymore. but it did. You're right. It got that into which you grew up with. I didn't grow up with that. My dad was a disciplinarian, but he wasn't a Vietnam Marine. But it was like all of a sudden, like, okay, I got to get my shit together, and this is whoa, this is not what I expected. My recruiter said they couldn't hit us anymore, and here I see it. But it was so necessary because a kid from New York City, I mean, smarted off to the drill sergeant, and it was deserving. And but it stayed in the office. Nobody saw it except for three of us, and nobody said a word.
Right.
But yeah, bro. I when you finished basic and you airborne school, RIP, how was RIP? And I think talking about RIP is essential too, because people in the RIP, nobody really understands that RIP is not Ranger School out there. And as much as I say it,
Yep. I was still explaining that to somebody yesterday or the day before. They're like, oh, yeah, so that person's going to go to RASP and then they get their tab. And I'm like, no.
No, that's not how it
Let's
works.
back up here. And I've explained it, to the point now where it's like you quit explaining it so in depth.
Yeah.
Yeah. My cousin's a ranger and he's at Fort Drum. You're like, okay.
And that's where you just don't want to break their bubble. You don't want to burst the bubbles. Right. I do the same thing. Like, okay, good job. All right, tell them be safe and thanks for his service. And But how?
I think that goes to and I've mentioned on the show something Nick Irving once said to me as someone who was like a layman, kind of coming to this community who's not a veteran. But unless you're in Ranger Battalion, you are not a Ranger. Seems to be what the consensus is, right?
That is accurate. Maddie has always been Sergeant Waters there. I love, and I always knew him as Maddie. Always, everybody in the battalion or in the company called him Maddie. And I could, when I got my tab, I was able to call him Maddie. Before that, it was specialist, always specialist. But with that real Ranger, it is. I would always say that too, dude. And you don't want to be offensive because Ranger school's not easy. It's no joke. No. You're not downplaying it, but you're not a real Ranger unless you've got that scroll and that tab. And that's, I don't know, Maddie, put your opinion in, put your 2 cents in there, man.
Yeah, I mean, you get that thing where it's like, oh yeah, he's a Ranger, and you try to explain it, and like you just said, you don't want to burst people's bubble because there are those family members out there that are extremely proud of their,
of course,
their service member, and then I think the only time I'd really challenge it is if somebody who was telling me that, oh yeah, I was a Ranger. And I had that when I was a cop. I had that happen a few times. People telling me that they were in Ranger Battalion. And this is the time when they spun up like the support companies and whatnot. And yeah, I'm a Ranger. And I was like, oh really? What do you do? He's like, well, I'm a rigger. And I'm like,
what? How did you handle that, man? I guess you're always, again, I didn't see us jumping down their throats like some of the, but when you got that, did he know that you're from Second Bat though? Did he have any idea?
No.
That's how it is. You want to sneak in, right? You want to kind of lerp in and figure out where, all right.
Well, honestly, I'd start dropping like the heavy hits, or not the heavy hints, like, hey, oh, so were you an Echo Company? I mean, some knowledge that somebody, your average street cop isn't going to know. So I'm kind of hinting like, hey, I kind of know what you're talking about, and you might want to be 100% truthful now.
Yeah, you might want to back up. Be careful.
I mean, especially, I would think that if you're saying this stuff and then you find out that you're talking to a guy who not only served in Ranger Battalion but lost a limb in combat, you're going to feel pretty stupid.
Yeah, it depends on how much alcohol they had on board. Because, I mean, I can't tell you, like at the height of the war, because I got out in 2000, when was it? It was 03, 04 is when they finally retired me, so 06, 7, 8, 9, I'm a street cop working the streets, and I can't tell you how often I heard it, what the F have you done for your country? And I'm like, oh God. I'm about sick of hearing this, because it's like, hey, wow, I just met the Army of One. The one guy that's carrying the whole war on his shoulders. It's here in my town. Awesome. No one else has done anything ever. It's you. Thank you, sir.
Isn't it unbelievable? But that being said, and Matt, what I got when I was as a private there and watching, and Matty was one of the Tab Spec 4s at the time, which at battalion, you're a team leader. If you're a Tab Spec 4, you're equivalent, at least to the younger guys that aren't tabbed yet. You're an E5. You're now Tab Spec 4. Once you become a Tab Spec 4, you don't have that responsibility as an E5, as a TL. But a lot of those Tab Spec 4s get in leadership positions, and they're supposed to be addressed as such. And when I remember coming in and seeing Matty, and you can tell, I think you can get it by the way he talks, is that he was always one of the ones that would think and use his head and not just fly off the handle if we screwed up. And then you had ones that would just fly off the handle and just wanted to smoke and just haze the living shit out of you when you were private, which is necessary. But, man is always one that I saw and one of the guys I looked up to. Him, you, and Specialist Bach was another one. that that would always you respected them, but you respected them not because it was out of fear or they were gonna make you do push-ups and smoke your ass till you puked, die. It was these guys know what the hell they're talking about. Listen to them, and they're going to be nice to you until it's time not to be nice because you've pushed the envelope too far. And that was one of the things that I always looked up to, being a private, and made me look up to guys like yourself. And you were in one of the best platoons too there at Battalion.
Yeah.
You had Cassavant, rest in peace him. He was at Blackwater with me, but you had Lieutenant Taylor over there, which former Delta guy. And you had Wheeler, I still remember, bro. I still remember Wheeler getting pissed off at me and smoking me when I beat him on that Baton Death March team run, and I was untabbed at the time. But I loved him, and I still regret to this day when he asked me to when I got my tab to come over because he was getting a squad to be his team leader, and I decided to become an officer. Because I looked up immensely to him. He's such the motivated individual. I just motivated 24/7, but that was your platoon. You guys had like an all-star platoon over there.
Yeah, no, that was one of the best platoons, in my opinion, in the entire regiment at that time.
Yeah.
Obviously I don't have, first and thirds, perspective, but, that was one hell of a platoon.
Well, you had Leroy too. You had Petrie as well.
That guy's okay. He's all right.
But hey, moving on, bro. Get into it in Battalion, and I know, I don't know how hard it is for you to talk about. I know you went through your ups and downs, and we can get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
But can you tell a little bit about the mission of what happened? And I know you've probably said it a million times. I feel you, brother. You get out there and speak too, and do it. You're a public speaker every once in a while, and you tell your story to people. But if you can, for the listeners, because really this show is all about overcoming adversity, and to me, you epitomize that as what you're doing now. But can you get into that day a little bit and what was going on? And
absolutely. I mean, I have no problems talking about that. We didn't talk about RIP. You were asking me about that.
Well, throw in the RIP a little bit then before we get to it. Yeah, okay. Definitely.
I mean, that's where you got that asterisk at the end of RIP where it's like experiences may vary. For everybody. And everyone asks like, well, what's RIP like? What's RASP like? And I was like, well, I can't attest to what RASP is like, but RIP, I mean, in my opinion, RASP is putting out, based off what I've heard and read, RASP is putting out a way more professional Ranger. Not that we weren't, but RIP was basically 3 weeks of getting your ass kicked.
You didn't learn a damn thing. Yeah, that's all it was. That's you. But we had that training time to figure that out.
Right. We joined the peacetime army.
Yep.
And it was, hey, we're going to put you through this, and then we're going to kick you to your battalions, and then they'll pick up the training for you. And RIP, I mean, I didn't have the thing where we ran from airborne school to RIP. We actually got picked up.
Oh man, what's going on with that?
That's why I said, the experiences may vary. So I missed out on the run. On the run in your damn arm. You don't even have jungle boots yet. You got to run over in your damn damn regular army leather boot. Hey, for all of you that don't know that, when you RIP from airborne school to RIP, it varied by class, and it varied when they pick you up at airborne school. They sometimes, if you did things right, you rode in the deuce and a half over there, or did you actually ride in cattle cars? And so you could deuce and a half, you could throw your stuff and they drive you there. Or if they didn't like you, or a RIP instructor had a bad day, maybe his girlfriend broke up with him the night before, they'd make you run. And is it about a mile? Is it 3/4 of a mile? I mean, it's not super far. It's no. It just sucks because sometimes you have to carry your bags too, or a lot of times, or you can throw them on. It does vary. But I'm sorry, bro. Keep going because you're bringing up memories because I'm remembering both times. Yeah. This podcast is going to be in like 6 hours. About some beers. So yeah, I mean, and then I really honestly don't remember a lot. It was 3 weeks. It was that many years ago, but there was nothing significant other than I remember. This was, you go through basic, you go through airborne, that's exciting stuff, especially airborne school, it's fun, but it really came down to brass tacks when it was like, hey, this is the beginning of where I really want to be. So I want this. I do remember that. I remember being scared that I wasn't going to make it. There was that constant fear of, your not your life is in jeopardy, but your career, and in so many words, your life is in the hands of somebody else, and yours, obviously. But there's so many variables. Am I going to make this? So I just remember being scared I wasn't going to make it the entire time, because you're looking at other guys, you're like, oh my God, that guy's a beast, or that guy's going to make a great ranger.
Sure.
I'm just a dude. But no, I made it through. No significant stories other than getting, our asses kicked for 3 weeks. And then I got to battalion, and that's when the fun began.
Another asterisk by fun.
Yeah. Well, and what sucked is, it didn't suck. It was awesome. I got to go to 2nd Battalion, which is where I wanted to go. But we only had like 6 dudes going to 2nd Battalion, 7 dudes from RIP going to the companies. And I was the only one that went to BCO. And so I was the only dude, the only cherry standing by the CQ desk with all my bags. Yeah. When, all these, Rangers were walking by, either swearing at me or giving me the once over or, whatever. But yeah, I was the only dude. I had no one to hide behind. It was just me. And then I ended up going to 3rd Platoon. And that's when that was Gunny Barreras' platoon at the time.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And you want to talk about an awesome platoon sergeant, that guy. He was a legend already. So yeah, I went to BCO, went to 3rd Platoon. Within my first week, we did those infamous 30-mile road marches. That was a blast.
Those are always. I remember when we did the one, and those guys, 30-milers are no joke. And there's usually hits along the way. I always could look at the mortar guys and feel like at least I didn't have it. There was always a way that I could look around. Like, God, this sucks, but damn it, I don't have it as bad as those guys with the mortar with the tubes and
gun team.
Oh, well, I did have to do that once, man. I did carry that damn 240, that one, and we all got hit with yellow jackets right off the bat. I don't know if you were, that was when Lieutenant Johnston came in, and we stepped off and we started humping right off Rainier Basin, and we ran into a yellow jacket or mud jacket nest, and everybody got hit. And I remember I got hit, and this was the first mile in. And I hit it because they were pulling guys off because guys were bad. They were swelled up. I remember Leonard got pulled off right off the bat. And I remember him smiling as he walked away saying, yeah, I'm done. Like, you son of a bitch. So I had to take his gun. And but I remember getting back to battalion after that 30-miler. And I remember when I went and saw Doc. I can't remember which Doc it was. Oh, gosh, that Kelly. I think it was Kelly. And I pulled my Nomex glove off because I was hiding it, because if they would have saw how big my hand looked like a boxing glove, and I pulled my Nomex because Rothke would have pulled me off. He was sending guys in for I wasn't Rothke, it was Johnston was. Rothke didn't give two shits. He could be stung in your eyeballs. He didn't care, which is awesome. But I remember coming back and just pulling that glove off and just and it was my hand was like a boxing glove, and it was just. It was the greatest feeling finishing it at the end with all those injuries coming and seeing the guys that had just got stung and got pulled off right off the bat and be like, fuck it. It did suck, but when you got done, you did feel like you accomplished something. I mean, whatever it was, you accomplished. There was like a little door you opened that, man, maybe I'm a little tougher than what I give myself credit for. And that's what not that I enjoy 30-milers but no, it did put some, it did put some hair on your chest, and I don't have much anyway, but it did. Yeah. No, I mean, you held your head higher after doing that stuff. I mean, it was tough. And people talk about the hazing and whatnot. Yeah. If it's malicious, I mean, like you're straight on punching people in the face and, hurting people, but like making people do smoking them. If you're smoking them until, they're sweating buckets on the floor, there was nothing wrong with that. And you actually mentioned it. I was listening to your guys' podcast the other day. I think it was your last one. Chris, you mentioned that shit doesn't matter when the bullets are flying. And this is why you do. This is why you do that hard training. This is why you test people physically and mentally
none of this timeout bullshit or, hey, this isn't fair. It's like, yeah, shit ain't fair when, you're in the mix.
Brother, shit ain't fair. You don't when that rocket or something hits and it hits over here and kills your buddy, but you missed you. That's not fair. But there's no reason behind it either. It just shit happens, and that's why you have to go through. You have to have that. And I malicious hazing. I agree with you. Well, I call it hazing. Yeah, I do call it a little bit because it's still an indoctrination. You're still getting punished, but there's a means behind it. And if you can't handle that physical with a little guy in your ear, maybe it's. And I remember, who was a dick? Rage Battalion. That was that guy that you just didn't want him to smoke. Really, the only person I could think that was, at least initially, till I got my tab, was Leonard, because he has a tab before me. He kind of, but that was just his way. But he wasn't malicious. He just was a dick. But I needed that. You needed to deal with it, because you can't deal with that shit. How are you going to deal with it when your buddy dies next year, or somebody's shooting, or you lose your leg by an RPG and you have to continue on, and that's, and we'll get into that. But you're right, bro, and that's why again, like yourselves, we had a great company, guys like yourself and Bach and Dalton was another one, tremendous. Oh yeah. Just guy and Dalton. For those who don't know, Sergeant Dalton, or who was Specialist Dalton at the time that became a sergeant while I was there, I think people need to read about his story. The dude is holy crap. He's just a beast, but he was so professional, and I didn't mind getting smoked by you guys, because I knew why. I always knew. And every once in a while, though, Bach caught me one time in the bathroom. I was hiding in the stall. I did, because I was like, I ain't getting smoked today. I'm tired of this shit. But I'm sorry. I'm manipulating. Continue on though, because you're bringing up some good memories in my head too, dude. But yeah, with the when you're at battalion now, and we're getting ready to now, were you a team leader at the time when you were deployed to Iraq on that deployment? You were a 5? Okay, so if you can go from there, man, let's talk about that.
Well, our first deployment was to Afghanistan. I was a team leader then, and that was 2002. Yeah, that was 2002. Wow. And not a whole lot happened. I mean, we got mortared once up in where the hell were we?
Was it Bagram area, or were you up coast to coast up on that portion?
It's what was it? Jabad? Abad?
Yeah. Okay, up on the Jabad.
Yeah, somewhere
Jabad
up there.
Airfield. Yep.
Because we set that up, not the airfield, but we pushed way out into the boonies. Yeah. And set up a place up there. We got mortared one night, and I think only 2 landed. And I remember, somebody yelled incoming, and we all started laughing. Like, somebody goes, "It's coming!" And then you hear, like, across the tent, you just start to hear people just belly laughing, because it's like, that's the crap you only hear in the movie.
You hear that in the movie? It's like you're back in the Nam, dude. What's going on?
Right. And then, I mean, it was, I don't want to say it was a joke, but I mean, there's so many other people, like the boys at Haditha Dam, that got shelled. Some of the other stuff, it's like 2 rounds coming in and someone yells incoming. I get it. It's like, hey, heads up, stuff's coming in, and we didn't know only 2 were coming in, but there's other boys that put up with so much other crap than we did. Yeah. And that was about it in Afghanistan. And then we redeployed. You go through your training cycles, all your RF cycles and all that. And almost a year to the day, we deployed to Iraq. It was March both times. Then we deployed to Iraq. I think we were making runs across the border to begin with from Saudi. Okay. And then we pushed up to Bayap. That was a pretty rad flight, sitting on the back of a Chinook. You can see, I mean, I don't think they were shooting at us, but you could definitely see tracers. You have your night vision on, you can see tracers going here and there.
People don't realize how cool that is unless you've seen tracers under your nods, and when they're not coming at you, but they're close. Because it's the coolest fireworks you'll ever see. They're so awesome to see that, and to me, it's just marveling, going, man, how cool is this? Who gets to see this shit? That's how I was. I was like, man, this is awesome, and I can't even imagine on the back of a Chinook. I was always stationary when I was watching, but that would have been amazing to see, dude. Just the green and the green lights just shooting straight up in the air because you feel like you're in a movie. I my opinion, that's me.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the greatest shows on earth, and you get a front row ticket, front row seat. So then we land at Biap, and at that point, I think we were Armor, I think, had secured the perimeter, and other units had obviously cleared it before we got there, but we were one of the first units to set in there, and there was no hard structures. There wasn't even tents. In fact, we were sleeping in a hangar, and a couple of us called it the planetarium because that thing was so full of holes that when the sun came out, it's kind of shaded in there. It looks like stars everywhere when you're looking up.
Was that from all the shrapnel? Was that from shrapnel?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I can't remember. As you were facing the building on the right side, up on the roof wall line, there was a huge hole. Something big came in there. But yeah, there was holes all over that thing. And then pigeons, I guess they're like flying rats. They can survive anything. There's pigeons everywhere. Yeah, we were sitting there when one of the first C-17s came in. And then all the supplies start rolling in thereafter, and we were running missions out of there.
Wow, that's cool.
Going all over, all hours of the day and night. Nothing significant though. We did a lot of missions. I don't want to say we were running and gunning, but we were running a lot out of there. I remember those days when you go out, you sleep for however long, and then you're putting on wet DCUs from your sweat. They didn't even have time to dry out before you're going back out.
Well, and that's why the training, that's why all that's so important, man. That's why people realize. Yeah,
like Ranger School going days on end, that's why, for when you do this.
And also at that time too, if I remember right, and that's when I actually started contracting right around that time, but there were guys, actually one of my teammates, Joe Espino, was at Haditha Dam, and I remember him telling me about what happened. He was a third bat guy, but what people don't realize all that time is that a lot of the tier 1 units, which would at that time would have been the cool guy, Green and Blue or Delta and DevGru, they were turning it down a lot of the missions. And I remember Red, which is Ranger Battalion, they were picking them up. So you guys didn't care. And that was awesome. It made me proud as a contractor because we were getting the word, because I was, of that was going on. I was like, man, yeah, Green and Blue are turning into prima donnas, and Rangers are like, shit, give us all the missions. We'll take them all. And you guys weren't having any sleep. That was amazing to me. Just the work tempo you guys had going out all the time.
And at my level, being a team leader, you didn't know whose mission you were taking or whose it was. You're just like, okay, we're going out. Okay, we're going out. We're going.
You're just happy to be here, dude. Just happy to be here. Let's do it.
You're just doing your PCIs. You're just checking your boys, and you're making sure at your level everything's good to go. You just have faith that everything above you is in the right pecking order. And then, in fact, one night you mentioned the super cool dudes. I remember the super cool dudes were out there doing a mission one night, and their bird, I think, obviously 160th. And those, you want to talk about some shit hot flyers. I mean, I always was able to relax when I was in the hands of 160th, just because it's like, these guys are the shit.
Yeah, and they were. They were.
I always felt at ease flying on their birds. And I remember we got spun up one night. I can't remember if we were QRF or not, but it was my squad actually. The super cool dudes had gone in on target, and their Black Hawk had clipped wires with the rotor blades, and so they spun us up as a QRF. And I actually got to fly over Baghdad on the bench of a Little Bird. That was badass. Dude, how did you? That would have been awesome. And you were flying from Biap. Do you know what part of the city were you going out to? Were they clipping in Solder or Karata? But doing that, riding over on a helicopter over the city. I got to do that with and when Blackwater spun up, all their pilots, all our Little Bird pilots were task force guys, because that's all there, which was smart. And dude, doing that on Little Birds, riding on the skids over there, and you got to be on the bench with those MHs. You just unbelievable. And I tell people about when you bank, because you're not locked. I don't think people understand. People always think, well, are you locked in? Are you snapped? No. Tell people you're sitting there, and the G-force is basically keeping you on the bird when you're banking and turning. Explain that a little bit and how that feels. Yeah, I mean, seriously, when you're not buckled in, I mean, when I say buckled in, it's like, hey, you have your rigger belt and, you know, a length of tubular nylon. I think we even had the cool safety lines at that point. And it's a D-ring, not a D-ring, a snap link.
Snap link. Yep.
It's a snap link, and you literally just go click into the side of the bird, and you're just sitting there. So yeah, I mean, they tell you, they're like, and it was cool because it was at night, so we had our night vision down, flying over the city, and you know, we've already flown on little birds. We've already had the safety briefs. They just double tap. They're like, hey, if we shoot, just remember when we're banking not to shoot your feet or my rotor blades. You're like,
yep. Yep.
That's crazy,
man. It's just crazy. It's crazy. The first time I banked on one of those, dude, I'm gonna lie, I screamed like a little girl because I thought I was gonna fall off.
I feel like I would be the same way, man. I don't do well with those situations.
But when you get used to it, Ian, because after the first turn, you realize you're not gonna fall. And after and they know so much how to do it with the G-forces, they've got it figured out, that it becomes so fun. It's just it's the coolest. It's like doing a roller coaster and you're being able to hold a gun. So basically you're in a roller coaster with a rifle. And it is. I remember coming in one time, and we did one training where I did that. And I remember coming in, I wasn't for real. It was training. And I was on a bench, and I remember the dude coming in, and he was saying the pilot was getting into it. And he's like, fucking shoot that thing. Cover me. It's getting me all motivated. I mean, that's just how cool the 160th guys were. And Sergeant Waters is right, man. You never felt like you were in unsafe hands. You could get on that and you'd be like, I'm good. These guys got me.
That's awesome. Yeah, that sounds like true brotherhood there, and guys that you could trust. I know we touched on it. You know, we're going to touch on it a few minutes ago, and we're getting into all sorts of other stuff. I do want to make sure that we get into, as Tonto mentioned, kind of your injury and persevering, because I think that's going to be a really inspirational story. Yeah. I know we're fast forwarding through some things, but I do want to make sure that we hit on that and kind of get into, as Chris asked, like, where were you that day and what went down?
Yeah. So it was, I mean, I can't remember I mean, I know what's the date it was when I got hurt, but when everything started rolling together, I don't know. There is an article, some guys shared it on Facebook recently, flash to bang, about that day.
Yeah.
And I won't go into some of the other names, because if people want to look at it, obviously if it's on the interwebs, it's, you know, safe to look at and safe to talk about, but there's still some, boys that are doing cloak and dagger, really cool super guy stuff. So I'm not going to mention their names or anything like that, but, yeah, you can flash to bang, check that out online. There's a story somewhere. Anyway, I don't know when the pieces started coming together, but we got a heads up that, hey, you guys are going to hit a terrorist training camp out in the boonies. And it was actually, if I remember correctly, 101st Airborne's mission. And they either needed more time or they weren't ready in some fashion. I can't remember what it was. Again, above my head. So our leadership was like, hey, we'll take it right now. And we ended up getting the mission. It got kicked. I think it got slid to the right 24 hours. And we ended up punching out to go hit this terrorist training camp way out in western Iraq, not too far from the Syrian border. It was a company plus hit. So I think we took our entire line company, and then probably mortars came with us, I think. Anyway, I don't remember the exact makeup, but I do know that one platoon drove. They took GMVs all the way out there. And then, the rest of us, first and second, flew with the Night Stalkers. And, I was on a Chinook, you know, and at this point, we'd hit a lot of dry holes. We'd seen some limited contact here and there, but nothing major. So we're flying out, and, you know, you're just kind of in the back. You got your ear pro in. I'm in the back of a shit hook, and, you know, you're just kind of zoning out. And are you guys still there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, gotcha. I'm locked into this.
No, we're locked in. I'm listening because I know a little bit about it from what I read, but I've never talked to you or Leroy specifically about it because I didn't know if you wanted to. So I always let it up to you.
Yeah, you know what? I've never been one to shy away from it. I mean, hell, I still wear shorts and, you know, a nice cool ass prosthetic. So, if people want to talk to me about it, by all means, I don't hide it. So anyway, I digress. So you're flying in the back of a Chinook or a Black Hawk. I was in the back of a Chinook, and you got your ear pro in. You're kind of just thinking about what's ahead of you, your actions on the objective, but also zoning out. I mean, your brain goes so many different places when you're in those birds going places. So we stopped at the forward area refueling. Forward area refueling rearming report. Yeah, rearming.
Yep. Rearming.
Yeah, the FARP. Yeah, the FARP. Yep. And as we were sitting there, they called in a couple fast movers to soften the objective. And I think I remember seeing the explosions in the distance. And then we piled back into the helicopters and off we go. And support by fire, was ahead of us. And they set in, they get off their birds, they sit in, and then the main effort comes in. And I remember coming off the Chinook. And I tell you what, man, I've done it dozens of times, You're on that Chinook and, the bird starts flaring. You're on one knee. You got your gun across your other, and you got that hand on the gate to your snap link. And you never feel more alive than when that bird starts flaring, right?
Yeah.
And it starts shuddering as it's flaring coming in. And you're on a knee with 15, 25, however many dudes in the same position on a knee, gun across their knee that's up, just waiting for that ramp to drop and just start kicking ass. There's no greater feeling. I mean, there is, but that is one hell of a feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm not that psychotic where it's like, doing that's the only good thing in life. Conan, what is best in life? It's like, yes, but there's other good things too. But that is one of those things where it's like, that is awesome.
You are amped up, man. And that's what we tell about the training and or even other ops when you have time, when you're able to finally just sit there and you went through your head, you're war gaming it, you're what ifing everything. And then that's come down, you're ready. And that's why I always say you that's why the toughness of preparing you, the hardness of the 30 milers, the multiple missions, the sweating in the hallways, the being yelled at a little bit, getting
in body armor.
Exactly. Putting your pro mask on and running in that. Yeah. That's where all that comes, because you're able to focus. So you're focused, man. And you're alive because your senses are just honed and you can see everything without it turning into that little cone because you've gone into the black because you're overwhelmed. All right, go ahead. Keep going. I'm into this, man. I'm digging it.
I know. I mean, you can probably hear it. I'm like amped up even talking about it.
Yeah, man. I feel like we got to have like sound effects in the background on this one, man.
Yeah, I know, man.
This is a story.
So, I mean, you're on a knee, that bird starts shuddering, you feel the wheels hit, and then you feel them hit the brakes, that ramp comes down, and we start piling off. And I was running off the back of the Chinook, and I peeled around to my right, so the left of the bird. And we can see, like, support by fire is rocking and rolling. I mean, there's tracers going everywhere. You see them when they go along the ground, they hit something, they skip up. I mean, it's kind of like, those old school live fire ranges where it's just nothing but tracers going out. And I'm like, oh shit, we've got a really hot objective. So we get out of the bird, we take a knee, birds lift off, and then we get online, and then you could already kind of hear it, but once the birds took off, you can just hear the chaos. There's machine guns, there's rockets going off, there's explosions. You're like, holy shit, this is real. So we get up online, and I mean, when I say online, because it's the flat desert, you've got no cover. So we just start spreading out and pushing online, clearing towards the objective.
Yep.
And our objective was down in a wadi, the main part of the objective. So we're pushing up, kind of like a light jog. And again, we're all kitted up. We've got, everyone's got their machine guns and rifles and grenades, your basic combat load, your RBA, helmet, all that jazz. I mean, we're loaded for bear. So we're pushing up, and I'm kind of in the middle of the line. And all of a sudden, from the low ground in front of me, probably about 50 meters to my front, an RPG goes from the bottom of the wadi straight up. And that shit was loud. And Yeah, I probably peed a little because it was so loud, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
no.
It's just, you start reacting, and there was no like, oh, I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, I'm taking it. It was just a flat belly flop. Wham, because you don't know where that rocket was going. Eventually, as it's going up into outer space, you hear it go in that direction. You're like, oh, okay. Later found out they were trying to do some Black Hawk Down stuff, and we had little birds on station, and the little birds were making gun runs, and they were trying to shoot the little birds out of the sky with RPGs.
Yeah,
and
that
that's
ain't
what
gonna
that
happen.
was.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. No.
So, we all get back up and start pushing on. And then another one, we're quite a bit closer. Another one goes up, and you kind of get back down, but you're realizing that, okay, I can see in front of me because of my night vision. There's a fire burning in the wadi. So there's tons of light. We're still in the shadows. I can see I have no targets in front of me. So I know that RPG is not coming my way. And then we probably get within 10 meters of the edge of the wadi. And I can see off to my left our intermediate support by fire. I can't remember which squad it was, but one of the squads from my platoon, and my buddy Luker was over there. And they were, you can see their lasers were on, and you can just see the lasers just bouncing back and forth from their saws, from their rifles. And they're shooting right down into where, right below me, 10 meters in front of me, but down in the ditch or the wadi. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm realizing, that's where I'm supposed to be going here in like a couple seconds. There's somebody still down there. And I remember thinking, I was like, shoot all those assholes. So I just got to go down there and clean them up. And then, you're also curious, but I'm like, I'm definitely not sticking my head over this wadi because 2 RPGs just came from down there. I'm not going to have my head taken off. So intermediate support by fire was rocking and rolling. And then we pushed down to a draw, which was our ingress route. And right there in the draw was where they were, the bad dudes were, that was their driveway. They were using that for their vehicles in and out of the wadi, their ingress and egress route. And we get into the draw, and at the back of the draw, or I guess the front of the draw where it opens up into the wadi pretty wide, I could see a vehicle sitting there, or what was left of it. The close air support. And I think we had Spectre on station too.
Jeez.
Oh yeah, man. We came in heavy. And I don't know which air asset it was, but seeing a vehicle, it didn't last very long. And if you guys have ever seen a vehicle burn, there's nothing that burns like a vehicle. There's no putting it out, and it was bright. So now it's washing out our night vision, and it's lighting up the whole wadi. And I'm like, oh my God, because I can see all the way to the other side of the wadi now without night vision, plain as day. And I'm like, dude, this sucks because this is my area that I'm going to need to go and fight in. And now they can see us a lot better because of this fire. And I'm probably, 15, 20 meters away from that truck, and you can feel the heat. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll throw some dirt on it. And I'm like, and immediately you're like, no, that's stupid. You're going to need like 2 fire trucks to put that out. And, fire department's not out here. And I remember my squad leader, he's one of the guys that went and did bigger and better things, so I won't mention him. But he was on the radio, and in training and just in doctrine, Rangers are like violence of action, keep them on the ropes. Don't give them a chance to set in, catch their breath, keep going, violence of action, don't give them a chance to breathe. And we're sitting there in the wadi, and, obviously there's moving pieces. You got to have your intermediate support by fire, air assets need to know that you guys are moving. So you need to get clearance, or, launching star clusters to let them know you're moving. We had to do, I think, radio transmissions, and he's waiting on I remember him on his radio. He's waiting on the word. He's like, we need to move now. And I'm like, yeah, we need to go. Because whoever's down here is just getting a chance to get set. And if we're loud enough, my God, they probably already know we're here. So, finally, I hear him bark. He was in the radio, and he goes, Waters, go. And I was like, I was the alpha team leader, so I'm the number 1 guy. And I go to the edge of the wadi, and I bust a left. So now I've got the open wadi to my right, and I've got kind of like a cliff wall to my left. And we're probably walking on an area before it gets down into the marshy area, probably about 10 or 15 meters wide, I think. again, there was a lot going on, so some of this is kind of fuzzy.
Sure, yeah.
So we're pushing forward. I've got my entire squad behind me, and at this point, my stupid iPro, I still had my iPro on, was fogging up. So I pulled my iPro off and I stuck it in my my K-pop band and pushing on. And I've got my laser on that had the floodlight, and I'm scanning, left to right. I'm scanning everywhere in front of me. And that fire is now behind me from that vehicle. So I'm really getting whited out. My vision's working to maybe about 20, 30 meters, because it's just getting washed out from all the light. And I scan to my left and I see something in like a dugout in the cliff wall. And there's something in there, but I can't make it out because, angles and firelight dancing and all that stuff. And I'm looking at it, as I'm still kind of creeping forward. And Chris, that when you're under night vision and you hit somebody with IR, you can see their eyes glinting in light back in your night vision.
It's like a rat thing. I used to think of it like a raccoon. You're catching the raccoon's eyes with your headlights, man, and you see that glint. Yep.
Right. And I'm like, okay, I don't see any eyes looking at me. I don't see anything that looks like a weapon. So I'm just going to keep, keep scanning. And at that point, I heard 2 gunshots from right behind me. And I tell you, man, I don't think I've ever got down faster in my life, because that scared the crap out of me. And actually, I think that happened first before I saw the dugout. Yeah, before I saw the stuff in the dugout. We're walking along, and I hear bam, and I'm like, oh my God! And I jump down, and it was my squad leader, and he goes, what had happened was he's walking by, and he stepped on a dude's arm. So I didn't know it at the time, but the fast movers and the air assets had come in and dropped ordnance on like their tents and like their living quarters. And as I'm walking, I'm kind of stumbling, and I'm just thinking it's turned up dirt. Well, lo and behold, I ended up walking out dirt and bodies.
Just bodies, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And, you're not looking down all that much. I'm more, as a point man, I'm more worried about what's in front of me and off to my side.
Yep.
And with the night vision being whited out, I really couldn't see much anyway on the ground. But my squad leader had stepped on a dude's arm, and the guy moved his arm. And he's like, oh, shit. And just bam, double tap. And I jumped down, and as I'm getting back up, he goes, you motherfuckers better start double tapping these bodies. And, you're all amped up. And, me just being, I'm amped up. I'm a little pissed that I just got scared a little, and I was a smart ass. And I said, well, I would if I could see shit. That's what I yelled back to him, because I couldn't through my night vision. I couldn't see anything. And at that point, I think that's when I put my iPro up in my helmet, because I was, I couldn't see nothing. So then, I scan to my left. I see that dugout. It wasn't shooting at me. So I was like, hey, no worries. We're going to keep scanning. And I keep walking, and I'm scanning to my front. And as I come to my front, I got my gun up directly in front of me, kind of, at the ready. And I look out, and at that moment I see glass. I see glass glinting in the firelight, and I'm like, oh shit. And I have enough time to get my rifle up. And what I ended up seeing, cause I see it with my eyes, not with my night vision. Cause I had the 14s. So I've got one eye under night vision and one eye with, just my eyeball. And I think I saw, cause it was red and yellow, that tinted glass from a scope. And I look, and I have enough time to tense and go, oh shit. And at that point, it was a dude with an RPG sitting in a fighting position, probably about chest level. And as I tense and I switch my gun to semi to start getting rounds off, he had already fired. Basically, he's seeing me coming up because I'm backlit for days, and because of that fire behind me. And I have enough time to tense and flip off to semi, and he'd already shot. And the rocket went right along the ground, and I didn't hear it, until... don't. Yeah. So it goes right along the ground and takes my leg clean off, my left leg, right below the knee. What I didn't know that at that point, all I know is I see something, I tense, and then the next thing I know is I'm seeing thousands of orange sparks go past my head up to like in front of me and up to the left in front of me, all these orange sparks.
So Did it detonate, or did it hit it clean and then go past you and then detonate, or did you even know?
I don't know. And, different people saw different things. And I was also told we were walking on, they had a cache site. So we were told that I think we were walking on some UXO, some unexploded ordnance. So it could have been something like that. But I remember my arms coming up and the sparks going past my head. And then the next thing I remember is I'm laying on my back looking up at the night sky. And I just feel tremendous pain in both my legs. And, I'm screaming my head off. Actually, I'm screaming 12 o'clock, 50 meters, 12 o'clock, 50 meters, shoot that son of a bitch, or something to that effect.
Sure.
Giving out the direction of contact to my team and my squad mates. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, your brain works so fast in those situations. I'm sitting there, gunfire's going like right over the top of my chest. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh God, my legs really, really hurt. And you're telling yourself, if you've ever been hurt, you always tell yourself, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. This is fine.
Yeah. I feel like in that case, that doesn't, it doesn't really work.
Like riding your motorcycle, or have you ever been in a car accident and you're hurt? You're like, this is fine. I'm okay. It's not as bad. And somewhere in the back of your head, it's like, no, hey dude, this is bad. But you're trying to keep yourself calm. And I remember thinking, I was like, okay, my legs are just broke, because I've had broken bones before. I was like, this feels like broken bones. And I remember I'm on my back and I lift my head up and I look, and at my left leg, all I see is shredded pant leg and blood dripping down in the firelight.
Yeah.
I just imagine this. This is like the type of thing that you literally have a nightmare of, and you wake up and you're fine. But I'm sure all of us have had these nightmares of like losing a limb or something. And I just couldn't imagine what it's actually like to experience it in real life.
What's amazing, and if you listen to Sergeant Waters or to Maddie, you hear his voice. He's trying, and this all goes back to the hardness, the being prepared is toughening you up in our culture now, where we've become so soft on each other. This is the mindset that toughness makes, that you are damn near could be mortally wounded. He is almost, literally could bleed out, lost leg. And he's telling himself, it's not that bad. It's not that, that is fucking amazing. I don't give a fuck who you are out there. I'll give it to you. How many broken, what you're thinking to me, bro, that gives me chills. And it takes a lot to do that for me. Because but that's you, dude, and that's how I saw you as a private. You were so fucking. You're hard, dude. You were hard, but you were tough, and I'm looking at you, and I wish I would have been there with you, but that does not surprise me with your mentality, and that doesn't surprise me with a lot of Rangers mentality, because that's how it is. That's what all that toughness is for, man. Now, I know. I know you're.
No, what I'm going to say is that wasn't like an overt statement to myself, like, hey, I'm so tough. Like,
no,
hey,
not
dude,
at all.
You need to pick it up, because honestly, I was just so scared. That's all it was, is I'm telling myself so I don't freak out.
You're trying to keep it together. Yes.
Yeah, I was scared at that point. Beyond belief, but you're telling yourself, hey, this isn't that bad. It's not like, you got a bad blister and you're like, hey, this isn't so bad. I can keep fighting. I can keep going. I knew I was out of the fight, and I knew that, I'm not knocking on death's door yet, but this is some serious shit, and I'm scared out of my mind. So I'm telling myself, hey, you're okay. Calm down. You're okay. It's almost like selfish just to say, like, self-preservation stuff. Like, you're okay. Get through this. But it wasn't, because I will defer to other people that are tougher than me. I don't think I was that tough. I just got put in a spot, where I got lucky. There were some other things that came into play, but I look at dudes like Wheeler, that were tough dudes. Battagliano, that were tough dudes.
Yeah.
To me, I'm just, like I said before, I'm just a regular dude. Anyway, I know we keep getting sidetracked. So I'm sitting there and I see my shredded pant leg hanging in the firelight, and I'm like, I just remember thinking, son of a bitch. And you're like, no. I remember thinking, dude, no, I'm Matt Waters. This is not supposed to happen. This is not my plan. You know, I did not see this coming. I mean, not that you could see it coming, but it's like, I didn't plan for this. Hold on. You know, all this, you start like the self-denial stuff. You're like, no, wake up. Okay, this is just a nightmare. And then I made a statement that other guys thought was hilarious. My wife still gives me crap about it to this day, as she should. Because she goes, your first thought wasn't about your family. And it was, but what came out of my mouth was, I was real big into riding dirt bikes at that time. And I said, that son of a bitch shot my shifting leg off. Shoot that motherfucker.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
You know what? I gotta ask then, out of curiosity, because I know with prosthetics now, guys are able to do really amazing things. Are you able to ride a dirt bike with how you are now? That's awesome.
I did. I got back into it.
That's so cool, man.
Years ago. Yeah. And I was never any good. You know, I just go out there for have fun. I'd still go to the races down here at Washougal and go do amateur days. But I mean, I'm coming in like next to last place. You know,
yeah, but I still think that's pure perseverance, man, because I think it's hope for probably other guys out there who have injuries and stuff. I mean, that is as big of an injury as you can get, and the fact that you could still do something so physical. I mean, I could tell you when gyms were open here in New York, which they're pretty much closed indefinitely with the way things are. But when I'd be working out next to someone who was an amputee, who lost a limb, and, you know, they're lifting like an animal and they're really getting at it, it always inspired me to do more, man. And just hearing that you could still ride dirt bikes in that condition, that's awesome, man. And I'm sure it's inspiring to the other guys who see you ride.
Well, and I hope so. I mean, I hope that, you know, doing some of the stuff I've done, and I'm not some extreme athlete, but, you know, I've done some things where it's like, hey, maybe there's hope for me too. You know, if that guy can do it, shoot, I can do it too. So I'm kind of hoping that by some of the stuff I've done, I can lead by example for other folks.
And you are. I mean, you obviously are. And man, we could talk to you forever, dude. Seriously, and you're bringing back a lot of memories for me. But you got off the X, and we'll leave it. I don't know, Ian. Do we have time? Do we have time to keep talking?
We got like another 20 minutes or so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me cruise through this then, because at that point, you know, Doc Gonzalez, he had just come to us in theater. Great dude, just super squared away. I remember looking over and I see him, nothing but asses and elbows running up to me. He slides in and he starts doing all the medic stuff, you know, the homeboy hug, checking for other wounds and, you know, making sure I'm, you know, not checking out. And he throws a tourniquet on my leg, that ratchet strap, throws it down. And then right then, another Ranger private was throwing a grenade out. And instead of yelling frag out, he yelled grenade. And so Doc thinking a grenade's coming in, and I couldn't talk about this part for the longest time. This one really got me. Doc laid over the top of me because he thought a grenade was coming in. And Doc was ready to give his entire life for what was left of mine. And I really struggled with talking about that because, I mean, what an amazing act. And I still talk to Doc Gonzalez to this day. Anyway, the frag ended up going out, not coming in, because they were throwing frags into the tall grass after the dudes that ran in there. And then they put me on the sked
I'm sorry, as someone who's like a layman here, what is the difference between a frag and a grenade?
Just in terminology. It's, well, it's terminologies.
Gotcha. No, because when you said that he said grenade out instead of frag out, that's why I was wondering why there was a difference there.
Yeah, so if you yell frag out, that's just a warning. Hey, I'm throwing a grenade out. If you yell grenade, that means one came in.
Got it. Okay, that's why I was curious that there was a difference between the two.
Yeah, no, that it's still the same. That's exactly. That's never changed. So yeah, okay. That's wow. Yeah, no, that's understandable. That's so cool that Doc did that though. And that's dude, that's a brother. That's Ranger Battalion, man.
It is,
man.
So they put me in the Skedco. They kept putting my body armor and my helmet on top of me, as was, the procedure then. I don't know if it still is, to protect you. And I was really struggling to breathe, so I kept throwing that shit off me. And then they put me in the Skedco. They're pulling me up a hill, and I could hear those boys were laboring, dragging my heavy ass up a hill, you know. And I remember I got my hand out at that point, and that's when I noticed I lost the top of my thumb too. And I was all banged up. And then I remember they were struggling, and I called out to them, and I'm like, "Hey boys, I know you're struggling. I love you." And I literally said those words. I love you. Let's get up this hill. I say let's, like I was contributing anything, other than being dead weight. And then they drugged me to the casualty collection point, dropped me off, and then went back into the fight. And that's where Roski and Gillespie were at.
Wow. Yeah.
Doc Gillespie. And, yeah. And, I remember Roski comes over and starts filling out my casualty feeder cards. And, all of a sudden bullets start snapping overhead. We're getting shot at the casualty collection point, and the RTO, Antes comes running up. He's like, "First sergeant, we're getting shot at." And I remember he didn't even miss a beat. He's still filling out my casualty feeder cards because I'm looking up. I can see his face. He's like, "Fuck it, we'll take care of it in a minute." I was like, "That's pretty rock star."
Oh, and Antes, I forgot about Antes. He was, dude. Yeah. That is amazing. And Rocky, that's I got that, dude. That's him. That's fine.
Yeah.
Hey bud. Yep. Hey bud. I'm just surprised you didn't say, "Hey bud, we'll get after it."
Yeah,
before,
he probably did.
For
he
you.
probably did. So they hit me with morphine, I think. And I remember thinking, well, this isn't like the movies. Where's my pain going away? And then, I never felt it did. And then the Chinook, they called in a casualty bird, or not a dust off, but they called 160th back in. They came back in as Chinook that had litters on it because I'm sure they were expecting casualties.
Sure.
And they put me on they came into a hot LZ, and I remember the miniguns were blazing. That was cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, and I mean, so much things just for me, all this work and all these dudes putting it on the line for me just still gets me misty to this day. So, they came in, they strapped me into the Chinook, and, we take off, and I was thirsty because I'd lost so much blood. And I remember that the air crews always had like huge jugs of frozen water. Mm-hmm. And I'm calling out to him. I'm like, "Hey," and he can't hear me. So I work my hand out of the, my other hand out of the Skedco, out of the litter, and he's walking by, and I grab his leg, and he comes down, and he's like, "What's up?" And then I was like, "I need water." And he goes and he basically feeds me water from one of those frozen water bottles. It's the best water I ever tasted in my life.
Nice.
And then, they put me on the medical bird, the JMAL bird. And then, they flew me to Kuwait, or eventually to Kuwait. I think I went to one of the combat support hospitals in Iraq, and then to Kuwait, and then to Launch Stool, where my wife linked up with me. And then, because the unit paid for her to come out, which was awesome. And then, to Walter Reed for about a month.
See, and people, that's what, whenever people ask, and they ask me, like, "How did you get through that?" Not when I always refer, because I had guys like this that I looked up to. Again, these are the kind of guys that taught me to overcome, like Sergeant Waters. Like, because it's amazing, dude. That to me, that I wouldn't have expected anything less from you, but even to hear it from your mouth, it's like, that's that tough motherfucker. That's that ginger tough son of a bitch right there. And that's what keeps things going. That's what keeps that's what keeps the regiment fucking as badass as it is. And it is, man. You can argue all day.
Sometimes I think I'm just too dumb to quit. There was other guys that were way better Rangers than me.
Nah, man, you're not giving yourself enough credit, man. I mean, because that's an amazing story, and I have to wonder, man, sitting in a hospital bed like that after being in peak physical condition as an Army Ranger, and now, as you said, kind of feeling like dead weight, where they're bringing you back and all that, and now being in a hospital. I've talked to guys before, like Mike Schlitz, former Ranger, who lost his arm in combat, severely burned. Yep. Yes, and severely burned all over his face. Great guy, but he wrote a piece for Ranger Up about that experience and saying that there was a time where he was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And he persevered through that. For you, did you feel that way, or were you just ready to get back into action as much as you could?
No. I mean, I wanted to carry on with my life, but I kind of knew that Rangering was over.
But by the way, which to me says a lot, man, because I think almost anybody in that experience would, I mean, to no longer have a working leg, I think it would be a normal reaction to be like, I don't want to be here. And the toughness to say, I do want to carry on is amazing.
Yeah. And when I was in launch school, my bedside phone rang, and the squad called me to check in with me. And guys that, like my squad leader, I really looked up to that guy. He was one of the toughest Muldoons I've met in my life, or at least, to me. And he calls me and goes, "Hey man, I just want to make sure you're doing okay." And I don't know if he told me that day, but he did at one point where he said, "Hey, I'm hats off to you." He goes, "I don't know if I could do what you've done. I don't know if I could carry on with losing a leg like that, So, and that does huge benefits to your confidence. You're like, wow, I really look up to this guy. He's giving me props. So,
but it's the truth, dude. It really is. I don't know either, man. I still love to run. I don't know what I would do. That's like a spiritual thing to me. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that. And you not only kept going on, then you went and joined the police department. And we won't mention which one it is, and which is fine. But then and not only that, how ironic is that you went into became a bomb tech. To me, when I heard that the first time, I'm like, holy shit, this crazy crazy fucking ginger. What the fuck's he doing? But then I'm like, yeah, he's all rangered out again, getting all doing the ranger fucking smartness. But it was amazing to hear that, dude. That's what was even more so.
I do get that every once in a while, where the people are like, dude, are you okay upstairs?
Are you
want to go be a bomb tech?
Well, I know you're not okay upstairs. I know.
That's a long shot. But actually, I mean, working with some of the cops that I do, they're great people. And no punches are pulled there either. Like one of my buddies was like, after I became bomb tech, one of my buddies in the department, he was like, "Hey, you need to roll up to a device scene, and you should at least like roll your pant leg up or even wear shorts, and you should just announce. You should just announce and be like, all right, everybody, don't worry, I'm gonna get it right this time."
You should, dude. You'd freak out. Oh my Lord, that would be if you do that, though, please at least let me be there as just somebody to watch it or film it for me, because that would be classic. Oh Lord, that amazing. Yeah. Well, I know you, because I got your baseball card that you signed for me at SHOT Show. And, but tell me, because you help out with some foundations too, man. And I know we're kind of, there's so much more. We got to have you on the show again. But I know you help with some foundations. Can you mention those?
Yeah, I mean, the one that I'm involved with, they're actually doing me a solid, is Homes for Our Troops. Nice. They're actually going to build me a home, a handicap accessible home, and then in the end they hand you the keys.
That's awesome.
That's a short version, but yeah, it's an amazing organization. I want to say they just built their 300th home.
Wow.
In the nation. Yeah.
They did that for Mike Schlitz too, not the same organization, because I know Mike Schlitz does a lot with Gary Sinise Foundation, but he also
the Sinise Foundation.
Yeah, he also has a home basically that could fit his needs.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's so many great foundations out there. That's one I work with. When I say I work with, that's one I'm part of just by being a recipient. And I try to be a good recipient and, spread the good word for them. And then Mission Outdoors is a local one up here that one of my buddies is the top dog in, and he does some good stuff, takes vets out fishing, tuna fishing, salmon fishing out on
awesome.
Out on the coast. Yeah.
Oh man, those are fantastic. And I'm familiar with that one. Those guys do a great job. Man,
hey, you know what I'm curious about is, as Chris was saying, how he was like, if I wasn't able to run anymore, I don't know what I would do. I know I already asked you the question with the dirt biking stuff, but I'm thinking of another ranger, Joe Kapicheski, who lost his leg in combat and was able to get right back into the fight. Are you able to run, or because I don't know, because I know a different components that they have now for these prosthetics, people are able to do some pretty amazing things that years ago were not possible.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I've actually met Joe, again, salt of the earth, great dude. And you want to talk about a guy that personally makes me feel like a weenie, because he's like, hey, I lost part of my leg. Hey, guess what? I'm going back to combat. I'm over here like, oh, yeah, shit. Cool, man. Thanks.
Thanks.
No, but he did amazing things. I mean, he was a rip tack, or I think he was one of the cadre there. And then, he went back to combat. That's amazing. And as far as prosthetics, what they're doing now, my God, I mean, there's really nothing you can't do anymore. It's up to the individual. I mean, skydiving, hell, I went skydiving with my buddy a couple years ago, Mikhail Venikoff, and he runs the Ranger Road Foundation. There's another one.
Are you able to run though?
No,
okay.
I can. And that I did get away from that. I can, but I have a really short limb below my knee.
Gotcha.
So I bear a ton of weight on a small surface area, and it tears me up pretty good. So I tend not to. In fact, I'm having another issue right now, but that's not because of running. That's literally just life stuff as an amputee. Me personally, I think I could. It'd have to be, pretty short distance. And I'd really, really have to take care of my limb, probably like go running and then be off it for the rest of the day, be on crutches or a wheelchair or something. But I haven't had great success running long distances with my limb.
Interesting.
Man, still amazing, man. Lord, if you and I could talk forever, seriously, we could go on. I'm trying to, because I know we got Reese Ian to tell me because I could ask him more questions, but I'm feeling we'd go after 1:00.
No, it's all good, man. I mean, if there's anything else you want to get to, we got a little bit of time.
Dude,
and the other thing is, I mean, there's a ton more stuff to add with, not the struggles, but the stuff I've experienced on the police department being an amputee, I mean, but we could save that for another day if you guys want to
do this. Say, at the end here, because we can edit all this in together. If there's anything, because there's guys out there, and I know you know them, and I know you've gone through. We've texted a couple times when you were going through some not bad stuff, but or like, man, you feel a little down, but tell people how to pick themselves up. So it is to overcome those things, because you still have days where that pain still gets to you. I know you've even told me, man, this thing fucking hurts today, and it's been so long, and it's still. But then how do you overcome that? I mean, just something the younger guys out there, the ones that are thinking about joining, the ones that are going through their own adversity that may have their own injuries, that they're not being able to handle it. What would you tell them, man?
It sounds dumb, but it's just a don't quit. It's a don't quit attitude. And that's not to say it's 24/7, because there's many other things that come into play. Is you having a can-do type attitude, saying, "Hey, I can do this," or there's a guy that lost both his legs that's a cop somewhere in New York right now, upstate, I believe, and he's a street cop. It's kind of like if you put your mind to it, your body tells your mind what to do. Yeah, no matter what it is. If you put your mind to it, you can do anything, regardless of what you got going on. Second, and this is pretty big, is having a support structure for those days that you are down. Whether it's calling your buddy Chris or texting him, your wife, your kids, a local support group, having some sort of support to pick you up when you're down, push you when you need a foot in your ass. For me, that's been my wife. She's always been there. She's, you want to talk about an inspiring person, that would be my wife, putting up with me and my issues. And she still pushes me to be better. My daughter, my son, the same way. They, just by them being there, they support me, and they don't even know it. But my wife, overtly supports me. So having some sort of support structure, and that is also, I know a lot of guys are, kind of hemming and hawing about it. Go into like a group or a counselor. Get this crap off your chest. Talk to somebody about it. Don't bottle it up. I
agree.
So having keeping yourself accountable and then having people that will keep you accountable and support you is probably the biggest keys I can think of.
Dude, that's amazing. I tell guys that all the time. You got to talk about it. You got to say something. You got to say it. You can't just let it eat up at you. And stop trying to be that tough guy. I think a lot of guys get that now, though. I think a lot of people out there will because of guys like yourself will get out there and talk about their issues and their family, dude. I get it. The guys and when I say guys, I mean men and women out there. The guys that are having issues are the ones that don't have that family support structure, that don't have a good relationship with their wife, that don't have a good relationship with their family. And they don't see that. They think it's, no, it's my post-traumatic stress. No, it's what happened to me. I'm so angry. But 90% of the time, and that was with me too, when I couldn't deal with it, I wasn't estranged from my wife. My wife and I were divorced. We reconciled. When we reconciled, things got better. And the guys don't see that because we're all tough guy alpha males.
True. And the community's getting better about that. They're getting better about, hey, you gotta adjust fire. You can't Ranger smash everything, or you can't right. I mean, it's good to have that mindset, like, hey, I can get through this, but you've gotta, based off things in your life, you've got to adjust fire. You can't be that Rick Snorton team leader anymore because your wife needs you to be at home and not out drinking with the boys and partying and doing 150 miles an hour on your bike down the road. I mean, you got to kind of adjust fire for your family life, not just for your family life, but for you to have a quality of life after the military.
Very well said.
You can keep some of the same things, but you need to. There was something else I was going to say. It was along the lines of adjust fire, but squirrel. I've lost my train of thought.
No, all good, man. I mean, I think all of that is really well said, and I think our audience is going to appreciate it, and that is some true inspiration. That no matter what you're going through in life, you can persevere. And also, it sounds like you're the type of guy who's a real asset to the police department. And we didn't get into it this episode really, but I think especially with what's going on, we've spoken about it on previous shows. There's guys who don't have experience in combat like you, and with everything going on, they're possibly overwhelmed with the rioting, with the protesting, and it's too much for them to handle, and that's when bad decisions are made in kind of the heat of the moment. You seem like the type of guy who's able to tell the guys that you serve with in the police department, that you've seen worse and that we can get through this.
Yeah, definitely. Although it has been an eye-opener being a street cop, because it's amazing what Americans do to other Americans, or just what people do to other people. It's sickening. It's disheartening. I know what I was going to say earlier. Look at that. The squirrel came back. Is, when you're looking to change, or you want change, you can't expect your support group, or you can't expect, like, if I needed something, Chris isn't going to know if I don't speak my mind. I can't expect somebody else to change me or make it happen. You've got to be the one that's open to it. And that's probably the biggest bridge for some people to cross, is making that, not just the first step, but keeping those steps going towards that change. It's got to be you. You've got to be open to it.
Oh, well, and that's the alpha male problem. That's the cat. I can't change. Everyone else needs to change around me. I'm doing everything right. Well, no, that's not the case at all. And when guys realize that, and it comes with wisdom, it comes with age. With me, it took me to be almost 30, because I'm only 31 right now to figure.
You're younger than me, bro.
No, but it does come with wisdom. With age comes wisdom, and it also becomes confidence and assurance within yourself that, you know what, you're right. I do have some issues. I do have problems. I do need to figure them out. And for the best of my family and my kids, I got to get them right, or I'm not going to have a family and kids. And then I'm going to regret that when I'm 80 going, damn it, what the hell happened? So, brother. Well, and I met I met your wife's awesome. I don't know if she put up with your ass on a good day. I don't know but that's the beauty of Ranger wives are the most amazing wives in the world, because they put up with our shit. They do so, and they keep us grand. They keep us strong. Ranger wives are amazing. For every Bat Boy's wife out there, you guys are fucking phenomenal. And now I thank you for your services out there.
Right.
Your wives too, bro. Yeah, bro.
This has been great, man. And
this has been awesome.
We'll do a part two. We'll do a part two, because I know we have Jim West coming on later this month. So we're going to have people on for a second time now that we're almost 40 episodes into this, as crazy as it is. Cool. And for the listeners out there, if you want to follow Matt and maybe get some inspiration, Matt is on Instagram at Hop Along Waters, 2 T's in Waters. So Hop Along.
That's awesome too.
WATTERS. And yeah, man, really appreciate you coming on, and honestly really appreciate you going into detail with everything. Sometimes guys don't want to really relive these moments the way that you did with us, and I appreciate you doing so.
Yeah, no worries. It does. It gets the blood up talking about it. You feel good, but it also it heals you. Every time you talk about it, it heals you a little bit more too.
Yep, you're right. Thanks, bro. We haven't had somebody talk this long. I mean, I lost track of time. Not that we had a good guest, but I was like, because you did the detail that you said. That's what helps me when I was out speaking, and when I speak, I get into detail, even though it's hard. But that's what helps people. They want to hear that, and it may be hard for you to talk about it, but in the end, you just reach somebody, and again, hopefully. Me too, dude. No, you did with me, even especially with me. So I appreciate it, man. It's good talking to you, brother. And man, I appreciate everything you did for me as a even the short time I was there when I was a private before I got stupid and became an officer after I got my tab. Dude, you guys like yourself and Bach and Hickerson and you're right, and Sergeant Wheeler, because he was just an E5 at the time when you guys are the ones I looked up to, and that's what helped me get through the things I went through. And so thank you. I just want to say thank you to you guys, because you guys mean a lot to me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, the guys you named I still talk to those guys, and they're good people.
Good dude. Hickerson's a stud too, dude. I hated that son of a bitch out of 5, but he was so mean. but he really, once he knew you were good to go, he was top notch. And I know he went to do some other cool things after I talked to him after. Dude's phenomenal as well. So yeah, you tell those guys, tell them hi from me, please. And I don't think they have my new cell. If they want it, please pass it on to them, because I changed it up.
Okay,
cool.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, gents. Great talking to you.
Really enjoyed doing that episode with Matt. Really appreciate him going into detail with everything, and wrapping things up here. Once again, Fort Scott Munitions lets us do what we do, and we appreciate them being on board every month with us. They're a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, as well as directly online through fortscottmunitions.com. I should throw out there, because all your classes you shoot Fort Scott Munitions. There are some courses, not with you, but with Ben Morgan, right? If people go to christantoparanto.net.
Yeah, they are. Check them out. There are some courses that I will be in Indiana, Fort Worth coming up in November. And then I also have a private course. It's private, so I'm not even going to say it, but Indiana and Fort Worth, I'll be still at courses as well for the full Battleline cadre. But you're correct. Ben has his own standalone courses, and tremendous instructor. Go teach it. Go learn from him and go shoot with him.
Awesome, man. And if you guys are looking to shoot Fort Scott Munitions in your own life, whether it's for home defense, hunting, or just going to the range, it's the best out there. Use exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order, only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. I say it all the time. We purposely are not on Patreon or any of that. We are not looking for money from listeners to keep this thing going. So if you want to support us, whether it's buying a shirt or supporting our great sponsors like Fort Scott, that's what keeps us going. So Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Paranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. And these have been some great shows, man. I'm glad that you made the connection for us to get on with Matty Waters. And we didn't even really get into how you guys linked up. So maybe next time we'll do that. But we got some great shows in store for the rest of the month. A lot of people in studio. We've got Brad Thor also coming on.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm psyched.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah, bro. I appreciate we got Maddie in at the last minute here, but that's one of the guys that people out there don't know about, and their amazing stories, because there isn't a lot on media out there, and he doesn't want that. But that being said, another one of those unspoken heroes that has overcome, and then those around him that night that got him out of there. And then actually they did finish the objective. They did kick the shit out of that base. They completely annihilated all the enemy out there, and they did it with all that adversity. And Maddie was just Maddie was hurt seriously, but they still accomplished the mission, though I be the lone survivor, and they did. So he's an amazing individual, and I'm glad we got him on. I was in awe of his story and just the mindset that he had. Like, when you got hit with an RPG and took your leg off, and you're telling yourself not to panic. Holy shit, that's amazing. To me, that's just fucking amazing.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoperanto.com. Face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.